My tipuna are from here, and I live in Tāmaki Makaurau. So I have connections across the motu. My daughter goes to Kura Kaupapa Māori Arohe o Māngere. I am the son of a master educator, Dr. Anne Milne. I grew up in staff rooms, and so I've always been involved in education, and even though the last thing I wanted to do growing up was be in education. So of course here I am. I describe myself as a professional tutu, and for me that's just the fact that I've made my career investing in my unrelenting desire to understand how things work. And so that's how I have approached my my mahi in the wānanga. In 2019, I gained my master's on the use of technology to amplify storytelling in Indigenous spaces, because for us, storytelling is our method of knowledge transfer. So the reason I kind of started this or offered to do a presentation is because I wanted to share some of the things that I've learnt around AI in the Rangahau space. And so I was fortunate enough to have Te Manawa Haukura ask me to run a session. So it's a little bit of a very short presentation about some of the things that I think we need to be aware of in terms of artificial intelligence, or what I want to start using is the term Gen AI for generative artificial intelligence. We've had artificial intelligence in digital devices since the first boxing game on calculators, or even earlier. AI just referring to a preset set of rules that dictate how a program should work. So Gen AI, or what's become the all-consuming AI term today, really refers to generative AI, artificial intelligence that generates content. And so that's really important to understand, and an important distinction that we understand. So for me, generative AI works by analyzing large amounts of data, text, so it can make the best prediction to satisfy your prompt or satisfy your question. Okay, and the key words here is prediction and satisfy. Okay. Generative AI predicts. Okay, it's a very, very fancy autocorrect in a lot of ways. Okay, but it predicts every single time. Okay, it's making the best prediction. It's just really, really good at it. Okay, and its job is to satisfy your question. That means that if it can't predict, it can make stuff up. And we've all heard of AI making stuff up and hallucinating. Okay. So I would love for us to ensure that everyone in Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, or everyone in the Rangahau space, understood the fundamentals of how artificial or generative artificial intelligence works, so we can understand its limitations and how to use it appropriately. Okay. So just understanding that, I think, is really important. Okay, so let's get on to some stuff that we can do. I wanted to share a couple of tools with us today and show how we can use them in our Rangahau, and then look at what the wānanga provides. So I'm going to have some pretty distinct things here. I'm going to use two tools, Elicit AI and Google Notebook LM. They're both free tools, or there's free tiers. Notebook LM is available with any Google account. So if you've got a Google account, you can access Notebook LM. Elicit has tiers of yeah, tiers that you can use. It's got a couple of pro tiers and it's got one free tier. So I'm just going to look at the free tier at the moment. So you can sign up to elicit.com. I'll chuck the link in the chat as a research buddy in a lot of ways. So there's a couple of quick things that we can do from the main page. I've logged in. I've just got a free account, and I'm going to get it to do a research report. So I'm going to ask it a question. Okay. And I've copied my questions in so you don't have to see me typing everything. But I've said I want to look at culturally sustaining practice with the use of technology to amplify, and it wouldn't be me if I didn't make a spelling mistake, the transmission of knowledge in Indigenous communities. Okay. It analyzes my question and lets me know whether it's a good question or a bad question, if it requires stuff, and it's also suggested some things to change. Okay. But I'm just going to stick with this. We're going to gather research papers, and then this is what I get for my free option. A fast kind of scrub through all of the papers, top 50 sources, extract from up to 10 sources. Okay. And so generate. So what it's going to do is it's going to go and search through papers and find things that satisfy my question. It's going to be able to rate them and then collate 4 papers, or actually might be 10 now, for me to use. So this is a great tool starting out. Okay. Usually we start out, Rangahau will often start out with our partai and then jump onto Google Scholar. And we have to sort through all of that stuff ourselves. This is a shortcut in a lot of ways. Okay. So it's looking at papers that match the criteria. Yes, maybe, no. So it's looking through all of the content of that stuff. Okay. And it's screened 50 sources, or it's looked through 50 sources. It's found 10, it's extracting the data, and then it's going to generate a report. Okay. So let's let it do its job. Actually, while it's doing that, because it says it's got about 3 minutes left, there's another option to just find papers, so it doesn't do any analysing. But this is a kind of nifty little tool that they've got where you can actually chat with papers. So you can upload or search for papers. So I've got this particular paper by Django Paris on culturally sustaining pedagogies. And then I can have a conversation with Elicit AI about this paper. Okay, so what are the key findings? Listed 4 key findings. These are not great examples like what I'm typing, but just to show you some of the things that it can do. You're conversing with someone about a specific paper. It's almost like you're conversing with a paper. That's what they're doing. Let's jump back to here. Oh, still generating the report now. Now, I will say, yeah, I wish I knew this or I wish this was available when I was doing my master's. But hey, I can use it now for my Rangahau and PhD stuff and all kinds of stuff. There are a lot of tools coming out that are all showing how to all diving into Rangahau. We've got ChatGPT that has a research or deep research option now. We have Google Gemini that has a research option, so it will dive into that space. The paid version of Copilot has a research thing. So those are generic tools that have been trained on lots and lots of data. Something like Elicit has just been trained on research papers that are available. Okay. Oh, still going. Okay. Some of the other things like summarize concepts, upload and extract, where you can upload a paper. Yeah, I think I've actually done this already. So it's created that. Lots and lots of tools that are available. I also use I use Mendeley for my research, all my sources, managing all my bibliography and that. And they've just introduced a AI tool as well. So AI tools are jumping into everything, and it can be really confusing about what to use and how to use it. So some of these tools like Elicit are ones that are valuable just to invest some time into learning how to use. Okay, let's see. There we go. So it's created a report for me with an abstract. It's got the sources, okay, for each of the thing. Here's the source over on the right hand side. Okay. And I can go directly to the source, so I can open it up, which is important because we need to triangulate and check outputs that are created by AI. And so this is just the free version. This is just the free option. To give 10 sources, this is a great, great start to diving into a Rangahau kaupapa. So lots and lots of data that we've report just from that simple prompt. Right. There's a month's work for me just there. So I can export that. I can go through all of the sources, go through the themes. Yeah, lots and lots of stuff. It's a really, really cool tool for diving into AI or diving into a kaupapa and getting some good sources straight away, rather than going to Google Scholar and trying to read through papers yourself and just figure out what's appropriate from those couple of lines of text that you get in your when you search in Google Scholar. So that's Elicit AI. I've used it a bit. I really like what it's done. I haven't dived fully into every little aspect of it, but I think it's a great tool to begin with in terms of finding out what's out there in the world. So I'll jump over to Notebook LM at the moment. And Notebook LM is another research tool, but this time we find the sources and feed it into this tool. So I'll just have a look at the question, where it got the articles from. Now that's a great question, Catherine, and one that I mentioned in another hui yesterday that is kind of a struggle for me personally, understanding that these companies, these AI companies that have trained their models on all of this data have often done it by stealing that data. We know a lot of papers are available publicly in that, and a lot are behind firewalls. And there's ways around those firewalls. We know Meta has openly acknowledged that they use websites that will bypass security to download papers and stuff. So there's I guess there's a moral kind of thing there. Do we use the tool or don't we? The information's there. Okay. In research, maybe my morals personally are a little bit more flexible in terms of I've actually bypassed paywalls myself in finding papers because that knowledge that might be in that paper, okay, the way universities are structured around the world to actually generate money, I could write to the author of that paper and ask directly for access, and they're more than free to give it to me freely. Yeah. So yeah, it's a question that kind of sits within ourselves. All of the outputs that I've found Elicit AI give me have all been open, so they haven't sat behind Sage or other kind of places that require you to pay for papers. It is a huge plagiarism exercise, and I'll show you some of the issues a bit later about that. Okay, Notebook LM is another tool that allows us to add sources, different sources, into a notebook, and it then analyzes those sources and provides us a whole bunch of tools. So the cool thing about this is that the sources can be like Google Slides, so they can be presentations that people have put out on. Usually you'll find them in conferences and that, or conference websites where they'll release the presentations. We can paste text. We can link a website. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. I've got a website that I'm going to paste the URL into. That's one. I'm gonna have to do one at a time. Okay. Add another source. Okay. I'm going to add another source, YouTube. So it will analyze YouTube videos. I've just made sure that these videos are short, so it's not going to take an age to analyze them. Okay. And then I'm also going to add a bunch of papers. Okay. So I've got some papers here that I'm adding, and it's going to analyze them. And they're all based on the same kind of kaupapa around culturally sustaining pedagogy. Okay. So it's already creating a little bit of a summary for me. Okay. Now I can chat directly to Google LM, Notebook LM, around all of these papers. So how does culturally sustaining pedagogy redefine culture within educational settings? And it's giving me a whole list of stuff. I can ask it to create a study guide for me. So it's going to create a whole study guide based on the sources that I've provided it. A briefing doc, a timeline, frequently asked questions. So the fact that it can grab all of these sources, including text from websites, text from video, and combine that all together is a great shortcut to help us get started. But I'm going to show you another thing that it can do as well. It's going to take a little bit of time to do that, but I'm going to ask it to generate a podcast for me. Okay, so I'll just click on that generate podcast. And while it's doing that, because it can take a little while, this is the study guide that I asked it to generate. Okay. So it's given me a little quiz. It's given me some answers, glossary of terms, Pūrākau, traditional Māori narratives, oral traditions, myths or mythologies. Okay. Let's get it to create frequently asked questions. Okay, and I haven't given it many sources at all. Okay. And once again, this is free to anybody. Okay. Frequently asked questions. What I wouldn't do with this is I wouldn't copy and paste this into my writing. Okay. This is for me to disseminate and to help me understand, help me deep dive into kaupapa that I'm trying to rangahau. And this is where this audio thing helps as well. Okay. Yeah, so Emma, using this to get an overview and then dive in deeper is exactly the way that this is useful. Okay. Especially if when I do go down my PhD route, which I'm hoping will be soon, I'll invest in like the pro version of Elicit AI for at least a little bit. If it's a monthly type of thing, I might do a few months to get started. Great way to help with the literature review, stuff like that. But I'm going to show some other tools that we have within the wānanga, and just how we craft prompts to help with our using AI to help with our rangahau. And then we're going to have a look at some do's and don'ts as well. Yeah. Being able to hear, and this is where the podcast is really, really cool and quite accurate. Okay, I've done a lot of testing with this, and it kind of feels a little bit like magic. But with any AI, there's some important considerations, and that's why I started with the AI predicts stuff based on our to satisfy our request. Okay, podcast is finished. Okay, so let's have a listen. I think I need to stop sharing. Share sound. No, I can couldn't share sound. Could you, I just need to change audio. Okay, let me stop sharing for a sec and reshare with sound. No, I've got to change. Share sound. Go to your device's audio settings and select real click. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out why it's not sharing sound. More audio settings. Aroho mai whānau. Go to your device's audio. Nowhere. Like your sound. One more try. Share. Include sound. Ka pai. Okay, so let's have a listen to see.
Have you ever stopped to consider how deeply the stories we tell ourselves and each other shape our understanding of the world, our past, even our future?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, from the oldest oral traditions passed down generations right up to the TikToks we watch now. Stories are just how we pass on knowledge, values, identity.
Much more than just entertainment.
Way more. They're like the bedrock of culture.
And today, that's exactly what we're doing, taking a deep dive into precisely that.
Okay.
Our mission really is to explore how traditional narratives specifically will look at Maori Purakau and also modern educational ideas like culturally sustaining pedagogy,
Oh.
how they both.
Okay, so their pronunciation is kaka. Okay, but the fact that we can put in a bunch of sources and have AI create a podcast is amazing. But there's more, whānau.
Grapple
Okay.
with cultural preservation, identity, power, all in this changing world.
Big topics.
I'm going to go into interactive mode into the podcast. This is where I can actually ask it questions myself. Okay. So
have you ever stopped to consider how
I'm going to join the
stories we
podcast.
tell ourselves and
Oh, hey there. How can we help?
What are the common themes amongst all of these studies? Oh, allow. What are the common themes amongst all of these studies?
That is such a great question. It's actually a perfect lead in to what we're talking about today.
yeah, you hit on something really central there.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, one of the most powerful themes that ties all this research together is the idea of asset-based approaches.
Okay, unpack that a little for us.
It's basically about moving away from seeing certain cultures or languages as deficits in education.
So not something to be fixed.
Exactly. Instead, it's about recognizing them as valuable assets.
As resources that students bring with them.
Right. Whether it's the traditional stories we'll discuss or contemporary youth practices.
And another huge theme is challenging those long-standing notions of white middle-class norms.
Absolutely. Dubois theorized about double consciousness over a century ago.
Measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity.
It's still relevant today, sadly. The goal is to see the richness of diverse linguistic and cultural practices.
Not through a lens of contempt, or focusing on.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So tell me more about asset-based ranga research.
Oh, that's a fantastic follow-up question, and it really gets to the heart of what we're exploring today.
When we talk about asset-based research and pedagogy, we're building on decades of work.
It's a direct
Yeah.
challenge to what's often called the
Okay, so really, really cool type of tool with some limitations. When you've done it a few times, you get to hear repetitive kind of uh, bits that are recorded or that are generated, kind of the fluff stuff in between the important stuff that they talk about. But an amazing way to once again disseminate, to get a whole bunch of corridor, and as you said, Emma, people that struggle to read large chunks of text, to be able to listen to it, to have that on the side while you're doing some other things, and just have it discuss, or have this podcast playing for half an hour, talking about all of those sources that you've fed in. So you've controlled what it's looking for. So a lot less morally divisive, I guess, because you've identified those sources yourself and put them in. The larger and the more sources that you use, the longer it can take to actually generate that. But it does a really, really cool job of refining and sifting through that thing, and that interactive mode to be able to actually talk to the podcasters in a way, or just talk to them in natural language and ask questions, is really, really cool. So these are some of the abilities that AI are providing us. Okay. Any partai about Notebook LM? Okay, let me ensure I've given you the link. Once again, all you need is a Google account. It's totally free. Now, everything I've put into here is all stuff that has been published, okay, and published openly. And that's really important. I would not put into here my draft work, okay, stuff that I'm working on to get it to analyze. But we're fortunate in the wānanga that Copilot is available to us as kaimahi. It's also available to all tauira if they use their wānanga login. So if they log into office.com or cloud.microsoft, okay, they have access to Copilot. And there's a little green tick up in the top right-hand corner that says we're enterprise data protection. We've got enterprise data protection. That means anything we put into here is not shared wider outside of the wānanga. Okay, that means what we put into here will not go into retrain AI or to improve AI. So we have some protection here. Now, it doesn't, it's also, there's no one in Tauparong or Hangaro sitting there being able to see all of our stuff as well. So no one's kind of farming our mātauranga. But it is a really, really important consideration with AI about sharing our mātauranga, who then has access, how is that used, how is it respected and protected. So as long as we're logged into our wānanga account, we do have some protection. So I'm going to look at using this in a slightly different way. A lot of us use Copilot very similar to the way we use Google and searching. Show me things to do with such and such. But we can take our use of AI to a different kind of level. I am going to add content. I'm going to upload, and this this was my third aromatawai from my first year of my master's. So I wrote this, and it was it was aromatawai around defining indigeneity. Okay, so I've uploaded that. Now I'm going to ask Copilot quite a complex question. Okay. I'm going to say, okay, I am preparing this paper for submission to an online publication on indigeneity. Let's debate the contents, and you take the position in opposition of my findings. Give me a series of 3 challenging questions, one at a time, and ask me to answer each one in turn. Cite your sources. At the end, provide feedback on how I responded to your questions. Okay, so quite a detailed prompt. And let's see what it comes up with. Okay. Question 1. If indigeneity is designed primarily through self-identification and cultural continuity, how do we prevent its appropriation by non-Indigenous groups who claim similar values or ancestral connections, especially in multicultural societies like Aotearoa? And then it's created scholars like Ronald Needson caution that self-identification can alone can lead to strategic essentialism. Okay, so I can start answering this question, but it's helping me identify sources that are contrary to my opinions. So once again, if I'm the thing I hate doing most of all is a literature review. Okay, but this is helping me build my literature review while creating extra rigor in my own thinking. I'm having to justify my positions in a safe, environment where I'm not going to get torn to shreds by my professor or my supervisor. And once again, we're in a slightly safe place. Now, I'm not going to answer this now because I tried this yesterday and it was great, and I answered it and then it came back. But things like that, get it to be get it to have a conversation with you, get it to provide some of these rigorous kind of arguments, and then get it to tell it to feed back to you how you went. Okay, how you can improve. The honest situation is that while people know what AI is and how it works, the magic or the funny part is that even the engineers that create this don't actually know quite how it does what it does, how it's able to be so accurate. Okay, and it's just going to get more accurate. So treat it as almost as a digital person. Okay, and do all of the things that you might want someone when you're writing in the middle of the night saying, oh, I wish I could talk to such and such, and ask it those kinds of questions and get it to feed back to you. So I'm definitely going to be using this when I'm preparing my oral defense when I finally finish my PhD. Is a great way to practice. Okay? By then, it's probably going to be talking to me, and it will definitely be like an oral defense. So, just to finish up, okay, some do's for AI. Okay, so treat AI as a study buddy. Treat it as that kind of guide when you don't have access to your kayako or your supervisors or your research friends, or in cases where you're not confident to kind of with your thinking, and you don't want to you're not at that position yet where you want to share and have big discussions with people. Okay. Okay. So have it practice your arguments, have it identify counter arguments, have it identify sources that you haven't thought of, gaps in your thinking. Get it to do that. Say, here's my paper. What am I missing? Where identify the gaps for me for things I haven't thought of. Okay. Have it check for grammar and format and clarity. Okay, but don't copy and paste that output and put it into. So don't get it to rewrite your paper for you. Okay, because you might not agree with everything. Okay, if you do use AI and actually put some of the outputs in your Rangahau, cite it. So cite when you've used generative AI in your Rangahau and include the prompt that you used. Okay. And then check your sources. Okay, AI has no moral compass. We cannot build morality into AI. Sometimes it lies. And if you're using free versions of particular AI tools, it will lie to you more because it prioritizes the compute power to answer questions to people who pay. Okay? So if you're using ChatGPT, for instance, the free version, you're more likely to get hallucinations, you're more likely to get wrong answers than people that pay the premium, because they get the priority, okay, especially in busy times when it's in use. So the less computing power that gets put to your particular query, the more likely the AI is to make up the answer. Every time you ask it something, it's going to generate a new answer. That's why you'll never get exactly the same answer that you will out of AI as you do if you're searching in Google. Okay. Don't have AI write your Rangahau. Okay. There's examples all over the place of academic papers that have been found to be written by AI, published and peer reviewed, I might add. This is one of the most famous ones. Okay. Because once again, these companies have just stolen content from authors. There was a book from the 50s that had two columns, and across two columns there was in one column it said vegetative, and the second one electron microscopy. So there's been at least 20 scientific papers that have the word vegetative electron microscopy, which is there's no such thing, but they've cited that string of text. Okay. Okay. Don't put unpublished Rangahau into generative AI where you don't have some control over what happens to that mahi, okay, to that writing. Once again, our mātauranga is is really important that we protect that, and especially if we have any data from our community that we're engaged that Rangahau with. Okay, and don't use generative AI on data that you haven't been given explicit permission to do so. Okay, so if you have data, if it's a survey, for instance, and you want AI to analyze the data that gets put in, make sure that you state that the responses could be put into AI for the purposes of identifying themes or trends or such and such, so that your participants know that's possibly going to happen. Okay? There's probably a bunch of other things, but it comes down to our tikanga and our values, nera whānau, and how we do this. So that's it. Stop sharing. I can share that prompt, absolutely. Let me put it in here for you. And that's kind of the typical prompt that I'm using with AI now. I shared last week, I think. One of the recent things I learned is sometimes to ask AI to ask you questions until it's confident it can answer your partai. Okay? So a prompt might be, I'm trying to research such and such, or I'm writing a paper on such and such. I'm looking at this particular kaupapa and need some help formatting how I'll present this. Ask me questions, help me format this bit of research, ask me questions until you are confident you have enough answers to be able to complete this task. Okay? And then you'll find that AI actually does ask questions and asks you to clarify points that you might not have thought of, or things that you might get the answer that you need just from those questions. You know, the greatest teachers are the ones that ask you questions, not answer them. Okay? So use AI in that sense too. Okay. Any partai? Does the wānanga have a process for tauira uploading our aromatawai into these forums? There is work being done on guidance at the moment for tauira. Everything that I've showed today, I've done specifically that can be used for tauira. Okay, so tauira can use Elicit, tauira can use Notebook LM, and tauira have access to the protected version of Copilot. So if they're uploading and if they're using that to do their aromatawai, they're going to be far more protected, or their mātauranga is going to be far more protected than if they were using free versions of, or even paid versions of tools like ChatGPT or what's the other one, Gemini, or the other tools. Okay, so none of this is official positions from Te Wānanga o Aotearoa either, but having seen the AI policy and its draft at the moment and been involved in that kind of area, none of this goes against that either. Okay? So I'm not speaking as an official wānanga kind of representative on what's allowed with AI, but none of this will break those rules. And it's to do with that kaitiakitanga of mātauranga, okay? Of my own and of other people's. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, Laura Lee.
Aye, kia ora, Kane. It does in some contexts. I suppose what it does is for kaiako is probably be upfront around the tools that we should be using in that particular space, rather than external tools that you've pointed out. Because the point is that we're wanting to preserve that mātauranga that is in our kona ako and aromatawai, from being put out to whoever, wherever it goes. So yeah, it does.
Yeah, and that's a good example. Like Tauira being able to put in the aromatawai as a PDF into the wānanga's protected Copilot and say, help me structure my time to create this artifact, or create this report, or create this paper, this assignment, given that I don't know, given these parameters, or what things do I need to think about when I'm writing this, my kaupapa is such and such. Copilot's great with Reo Māori too. So it understands Reo. It will understand what that word means. It provides Reo in context. So if you talk about waiata and just say, what are some waiata relating to this kaupapa? For instance, it might use other Reo words back at you, saying there's waiata and pūrākau and whakatauki. So it's kind of clever in that space. But yeah, we need to do a really good job in the wānanga to provide training and guidance around this for tauira. Often our kaiako are the first point of contact with that. So providing you guys with that, but also doing that. And I think that's one of the reasons Liam's here and some of his team are really interested in it as tauira support, so they can do the same. I also run a weekly live stream at nights, Wednesday nights, for any tauira and kaiako to join. It's free and open. Anyone, like, you don't have to be a member of Te Wānanga o Aotearoa to join. And I'll be covering AI very soon in August. Very similar to this, I'll be showing this kind of stuff. So actually, let me find the link so you can.
I don't know if Emma's got a pathway too, Kane.
And mihi ana ki a koe, Kane, for sharing this. I love your presentations because you start where I am, which is right at the beginning. This was really timely because we had a wānanga with our tauira advisors down in Te Kei who was dealing with this exact thing, with tauira using AI and how should they use it and what's okay and what's not okay and whose responsibility is it. And so I'm just left with thinking how we can support tauira overcome literacy barriers. So when they need to plow through journal articles, when they need to develop their writing, how we can use AI as a hohaere on the journey. So not replacing stuff, but being able to draw on it. So you've left me with, I'm really inspired. So thank you, Kane, for how I can stop being the old kuia in the corner and ignoring it and just start trying to use it.
Yeah, it's for literacy, it's a hard one. How much do you have AI help? Like anything. But there's other tools that are non-AI. For instance, in Microsoft Word, you can just press a button and dictate to it. And then you might be able to put that into AI and get it to correct mistakes or fix format. And it just suggests it. And then you can manually copy and paste if you need to, or manually type in areas where you want. Or if you have a support worker, say for our dyslexic or whānau, then you know that it's, or they know that it's your words as well. But I know it's a real struggle for a lot of our whānau.
I liked your podcast. That got me really excited, Kane, when our tauira see like all these articles and they're like, I don't read, that's not my space, I can't do this. And it's a huge barrier. Just wrapping some up in a podcast as an into, and then they kind of get their idea, their heads around it, and then they might be ready to get into the reading. So not as a replacement, but really supportive. I thought that was cool, Kane. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's such an amazing tool. And it is like that ideation and that initial kind of thinking, which sometimes is the hard part to actually get into Rangahau. Like, where do I start? And there's so much out there. Like, how do I get rid of the noise, and get to the meat of what I hate reading papers, especially kind of academic papers where you know that the writers are pompous pieces, like up themselves. Like, just talk normally. Hey, how am I? Oh, this is getting released out to the world, isn't it?
You can edit it. I'll edit it out, Kane.
Yeah, sure.
So if there's no more partai, just a reminder that everything, all of our previous sessions, so for those, because there's a few new faces, so I just need to mahi to Liam, I saw Janice, Adrian, I don't know if you've been on any, and Ata as well. But yeah, to welcome you to our Friday Te Manawa Haukura sessions. But yeah, thank you so much, Kane. It's really cool to finish our all aspects of Rangahau series looking at our AI, because it's really futuristic stuff for me. But yeah, so next Friday and for the whole month of August, we've got our creative writing and getting into poems, composition, and just getting our ideas and whakaaro out. So that's us next Friday. But thank you everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Oh, did you have another partai, Ata? No. No. Hapai. Thank you.
Everyone can
Ka kite.
harass me whenever they like.
Yeah, or just reach out. Ka kite.
Ka kite.
And she's almost 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 doing man. Yeah, man, that look after me over here. That's right.